Gardening. It boosts our mood, our mental well-being, our physical health. It feeds us, brings us peace and joy, draws whole communities together. No matter if you're a sophisticated horticulturalist, a flower adorer, or just starting to get green-fingered. No matter if your plants live in a pot or your garden blooms in full. No matter if you like to work with your hands or look for digital inspiration. No matter what season or stage of life, every bit of green planted helps us breathe a little easier and moves us closer to a better, more sustainable future. And we want the whole world to feel it. There are no rules. All it takes to garden is the passion to do so. Realize your gardening dreams. Gardena.
This is the Premier Garden Show. And here is your host, Anthony Faulkner.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Premier Garden Show. And this month has absolutely flown by. It only feels like yesterday we were chatting with Ciaran about some gardening tips. So I'm delighted to welcome on for this month as we draw into the autumn. And I think the last time, Ciaran, you were on, I think you were outside and it was bright.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was nice, but it's getting dark already. I see street lights on in the distance when I look out the window. So
It's kind of like we're kind of slowly creeping closer and closer to the winter, and we're leaving our summer behind us, and we're heading right into our autumn period, and that means a lot of planning. Especially when you want to plan for the spring. Now is the time to maybe start thinking of.
I think you're right. Because a lot of people will be saying, "Oh, the garden season is over," but actually, a lot of what you do now, September, October, even if you can do work over the winter, it can have a big impact on the garden next year. So, like even just the basic things like planting spring bulbs, you're doing that now for next spring. And if you don't do it now, you are going to miss out next spring. And then it's a great time of year for looking at the garden, seeing what worked, what didn't work. And in the next kind of few weeks, even like a lot of perennials, you can start lifting them, cutting them back and moving them around if they didn't quite work or you want to change things. It's a good time of year to do that. And then plants sort of settle in while the soil is warm and it's moist, and you get that work done. And it leaves you then next spring more time to be getting on with other things. So it's a good time to start thinking about next year. You're dead right.
Yeah, so I suppose we'll start off then talking about maybe, we've all had our planters for the summer. We've had our summer plants in them, and we've, now there's probably starting to look a bit more, withered and they're dying out. So I suppose there's perfect combinations that we can think of, I suppose, to, brighten our planters up going into the winter.
Yeah, well, there's lots you can do with planters, and I think a lot of people sort of focus like on the summer planters, and they do that, and then more and more people are thinking like of winter planters, and you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, what can I get now, which will grow right through until basically next May when I'm going to redo them again?" And there are certain things. You can get your winter pansies, a bit of ivy, underplant with some spring bulbs, and that'll give you kind of a good long season of interest through kind of autumn, winter, and spring. But what I like to do though is we're in autumn now. There's some great autumn plants, and so some planters might do just like an autumn planter. And I'll show you a couple of things which I would do for that. Or sometimes, you'd have a pot and there'd be 3 or 4 things which you had in it. One of those things is starting to go over, but you don't want to redo the whole pot because there's still 2 or 3 really good plants in it, which you're going to get maybe another couple of months out of. So you take out the bad ones and put in something now, which is going to look good for the next couple of months. So chrysanthemums are brilliant for that. And I've got a couple of nice ones here. And so I love this one. So this one is called Zemba Lime. So it's green buds, and then they open up into these white flowers with the green centers. I think that's really lovely.
That's
Um, so
that's a nice
that's
color now to
a nice
be,
colour.
there's a
And
kind
so
of there's a freshness to it, a kind of
yeah, and the green edges on the petals there, it's really, really nice. So that's one, you could just stick that in with existing plants which are still looking good, and that really kind of livens it up and marks sort of the change of the seasons. And chrysanthemums are perennials, so they're going to come back next year. So you're not wasting kind of putting money in like it's only for 2 months. But no, it's not. It's 2 months in flower now, but you're going to have those plants which you can reuse next year. So they're good long-term investments. And chrysanthemums, back now, they come in a couple of different colours, different shapes. So this one now, it's more like kind of a single flowered one, which is really, really nice. So there's a lot of sort of variety in the chrysanthemums. And to be honest, they're not as fashionable in recent years as things like dahlias for this time of year. But I think chrysanthemums are well due a comeback. There's some really super plants. This one is called Artistic Armon. So again, like sticking that in a pot or even just in a pot on its own, it's really, really lovely. And I've got a really bizarre looking one. Now, wait till you see this one. This is mad thing. Oh, no.
that's
Look at wearing a big, fluffy, flouncy wig. So that's the plant there, just with the one bloom on it. So,
I thought it was smaller until you kind of held it up there towards your
yeah,
head there. It kind of is
yeah,
it's big
I
enough, like.
can hide behind it. It's really, really
And is
cool.
that an easy to grow?
Oh, I think they'll be as easy as other things. Now, with these ones, when you buy them the year, next year they're going to be bigger. Because what they do when they grow them in the nurseries, to help with transport and make them more saleable, is they do treat them probably with a growth retardant. So it's kind of like a modern way of pinching them out to make them less big, and it pins away some of the side shoots to get this really big flower. But if you look down there on the plant, there's more flower buds coming. So even when the top one finishes, you will get more flowers. But next year you'll have a bigger plant, and next year that plant will be could fill like a 12-inch pot on its own. So they're going to be a super
Something like
plant.
that would be even at inside of your door every year in a kind of a nice pot.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a stunning kind of a yellow. I think there's like
yeah.
tints of white
Vienna
yellow.
cocoa, that one is. And
Yeah,
this one's come in different colours. You get the pinks and look, you got a coppery colour one as well. And the other great thing with chrysanthemums, if people are into like flowers for the house, cut flowers, chrysanthemums make great cut flowers. So that's another thing that you could do with them, is when you're finished with them in their pots this year, if you have a place in the garden, you could grow them on as cut flowers for the house for next year. So there are many uses for the chrysanthemums. And most of them I find are quite hardy. They will come back well, and they're really, really good. The other kind of group of plants which are really good for livening up planters at this time of year, and these will last for more than just the autumn, are these Calluna heathers. So Calluna vulgaris is actually a species which is native to parts of Ireland, but these ones then are been bred for brighter and better colours. So you have two main groups of them. You have these ones here, which they're called garden girls, this range of them. And the growers often do not just one in a pot, but they put in this one now, there's two different colours. There's the white and the pink ones. And they sell them as garden girl twins. And these varieties are selected that the buds don't actually open up properly. I don't know if I hold it up there, you can see the buds. The buds remain sort of closed. So this means they don't go out of flower for a long time, and they will keep their colour right up until after Christmas time. So I think they're really good good varieties. So those ones there's twos. You can get them in trios with three, and this one is a group of them which are selected for just changes or foliage colours. This one got a really yellow, slightly bronzy colour foliage, and then this one here has grey colour foliage. So there's nice varieties. And some of them, as we get them later on, is you'll have like 5 in a pot or 7 different colours in a pot. They're really, really cool. So even just one of those in a small pot really makes an impact. And then they can be used in pots and gardens ongoing year after year. The one thing with Kalunas, if you're going to grow them long term, they would need ericaceous compost. Now, if you're only putting them in with the thing, I'm going to use them for a bit of a filler until Christmas, you wouldn't worry too much about the compost type. But growing them long term, ericaceous compost, so the same compost that you're using for rhododendrons and azaleas and things like that, they would do good. One other one, I think it's a great plant, not just for the autumn, but this I use year round in my planters. And you get a lot of people coming in to the garden centre and they're looking to redo the planters. They've had these trailing plants all for the summer, but there's not the same selection of trailing plants for hanging baskets and things for your winter season. So ivies are traditionally used, and ivies are great. Use ivies in some pots, but this one is an evergreen trailing plant, and I've done a couple of hanging baskets just with these, and I did them last year. Still have them over the summer, and they'll keep going. And it's a plant called Muhlenbeckia, and I think it's just a lovely change from ivies. Small little green leaves, has a little kind of greeny white flowers, but it's for the foliage, and just that in a hanging basket on the edge of a pot, I think it's really, really beautiful. And there's variegated versions of it as well, with sort of pink colour tones, and the yellow one called Golden Girl, which has a kind of a nice kind of lime green and yellow foliage to it. So there's sort of different options. So if you put that in your pot, you'll have it like, you can use it through next summer as well, and super, super plant. So there's lots of options. And then for what I like to have it in the pots as well is a bit of kind of structure and texture. Grasses. You can appreciate that, Anthony. You like your grasses. So this one is Carex frosted curls. You can see that there. And Carex frosted curls, beautiful one, evergreen. That's a nice sort of, almost like it has a bit of frost on it, curly new growth. And that in the centre, properly placed in the pot, gives you lovely texture to the pot, and you can fill in then with other flowers. And again, this is a permanent plant, so either keep on using it in the container or you can plant it out into the garden. And so you're using it temporarily in the pot, permanently then as another use. Oh, actually, grabbed these on the way out. These are sort of a recent introduction. Another Kaluna heather, but this is part of the range called Rasta Girls, and these are actually trailing heathers. You can see there, the stems, instead of going up, they actually do go down, and they're fantastic. So again, they have the buds which last until about Christmas time, evergreen foliage after that, and you can get yellow leaved ones as well. So the trailing heathers are sort of a new development, if you like, with that. So invaluable plants, I think, for the autumn and even then going into the winter. So I think you got to also look at the pots as the different seasons. Maybe you got an autumn season, and even that autumn season could bring you right up until Christmas, and then maybe do a little bit of a rejig then over the Christmas period, and that can often keep you then going right up until kind of April or so, and then it's time then you start thinking for summer again. So there's it's kind of, it's nice to redo the pots and keep them looking fresh.
Yeah, I think people kind of, they are, I suppose, a majority of people that kind of only do the pots for the summer.
Yeah.
Because they tend not to be out in the garden. But like even at the front of a door, front of your house, like, it can make a bit of an impact.
Absolutely.
And there's, it's nice just to, as you said, to freshen it up. And that's what you said, even with the grasses there, if you kind of put a plant in that's kind of going to be, you're going to get a lot of time out of, you're only kind of then taking away, adding and freshening up your containers then as you go along.
Exactly.
And I suppose you should probably put in, a good quality compost and
Yeah, freshen up the compost, whichever one. I mean, there's so many different ones out there. Whichever one is your favorite. Good. Probably maybe one thing just to keep in mind in the winter ones is maybe put a little bit of extra drainage material through it because they might be holding a lot of water sitting there like that. But in terms of the autumn and winter pots, you're probably not feeding them as much as you would with the summer ones. You still maybe need to check them for water, particularly if they're up against the wall of the house where they're protected like from the eaves overhead. So check them every week for the water. They might not need the watering, but you certainly do check them. And then if you have kind of winter pots coming into springtime, that's when you start feeding them again in about February as the growth will restart. And yeah, you keep them looking their best. And the same things as you do for summer, a little bit of deadheading and pulling off kind of brown leaves, etc., so you don't get mold coming on it. And yeah, it's just nice to. I think the planters will keep people in touch with nature and the garden very easily without having to stray too far from the front or back door.
Yeah, and there's great varieties out there now that, and as I said, you can always experiment. What you might do this year, you could experiment and try something different next year,
Absolutely.
and keep
Always.
freshening it up. And there's always using new varieties
Yeah,
coming in, so it's important to keep looking to see, and as I said, try and get the right blend
yeah.
together.
So it's
Um,
actually the pots which I have in my front door, a couple of them are ones which I did last winter. For like around this time last year. So I've a standard holly, one trained on a stem, a small one, and that's a female holly. And then underneath it, I planted a male one and a few other plants. And it looks great all year round too. Change one or two things maybe for the summer, and I'll put something in now for the autumn with it. But the basics of the main part of the planting is the same. And yeah, I think it's really nice though in winter to see still nice looking planters. So I don't know, it just makes the winter seem shorter.
yeah, and always there's, I don't know what the name of the plant is. There's one out there kind of has kind of, I suppose, orange berries.
Or
Um,
the solanum.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? To
yeah,
me that's a real autumn type. You see it a lot in people's containers and
yeah. No,
planting.
there's a nice
Real
little.
kind of, it's a real kind of Halloween or real autumn
Yeah,
feel to it.
they call it the
Uh,
the winter cherry or Solanum pseudocapsicum. It's a nice little plant, and it's actually really quite hardy. I've one now in a pot, and I've had it 3 years, and it's coming back into berry every year. So yeah, so again, like some of these plants, they're not just like a bed plant here and gone. You can keep them and get their real value plants that they'll last for many years.
yeah, and now as we go on, as you said right at the start there, we have to think of. We are now back in the season. I've been in around kind of garden centres the last day or two, and our bulbs are starting to pop up. Our daffodils, our tulips, my favourite allium.
And
I
yeah,
actually picked up a few white and new white and purple because I didn't have any white. So I picked up. I know where my alliums came up from last year, so I picked up a few white ones and a few more purple. So I've
very
kind
good.
of moving. Yeah, I've kind of. So yeah, and crocuses. All our kind of our spring bulbs are kind of now coming um,
Yeah.
into the shops, into the garden
Yeah,
centres.
so if you get in now, you'll get the full range. So many times you get people in and they're leaving it until kind of mid late October, and oh, do you not have I don't know particular narcissus or tulip? And no, they're all gone. You can never really predict, or somebody's looking for maybe the white allium, Mount Everest, and it's end of October and say, sorry, no, none left. They're all gone for this year. And so, yeah, it's good to get in early, even if you're not ready to do the planting, get them. And so you'll have them there when time comes to do it. And I suppose one of the biggest kind of queries you get, or most common query that you get for planting bulbs, will be about the planting depth of the bulb. And I suppose the general rule is the bulb is that size, you're putting it twice as deep. So you're going to the base of the bulb that much. So yeah, roughly twice the depth of the bulb. So the bigger the bulb, the deeper it's going in the ground.
Yeah, and I think because there's a lot of people would say to me, even about daffodil bulbs, that that maybe they didn't get any flower. So there's a lot of as you said, you have to think and kind of read up, or maybe even ask questions where you're buying the bulbs,
Try
like
to ask
what.
the question about it. Yeah, but most bulbs are easy. They're super.
They
And
find their way, they always say, but
yeah, and even if they go in upside down, they'll turn around in the ground themselves and come up the right way. They're amazing things like that. And many of them then again, like they're not just for next spring, they're every spring afterwards. So even if you have them in planters, you plant them out into the ground afterwards. But the very important thing with a lot of things, say like the daffodils, and more people are doing this, is they plant them in a grass area. So you have this what we call like a naturalized effect. So you have bulbs growing in a lawn, but what people need to appreciate when they do that is for the daffodil to make energy and store enough food for flowering next year, you have to leave the foliage grow. And that means that if the foliage is growing in your grass is also growing longer. So you are going to have a long grass area while the bulbs are still growing. So if you get your daffodil and it's flowering at the beginning of March, you're going to be leaving the foliage and therefore the grass around it keeping growing, certainly until the beginning of June. So, and then it's a question of then you can cut them all down. So you have to let the bulb grow, photosynthesize, make that food so it can store it then in that bulb and make its flower bud for the following year. If you go cutting the grass and cutting the foliage, you're just basically treating them like an annual plant and they won't come back.
yeah, where I work up in the sports centre, we put last year, well not well last, you could say autumn, whatever. We put in a load of daffodils up along the driveway, um, and yeah, some of them came up, and others didn't. Like, but maybe I might get more out of them next spring. But I
That's
know
all
where
it
you're
is.
coming from. I had to kind of cut around there, and even though you're looking at it and it's untidy, and the daffodils are finished, and you're kind of, as you said,
Yeah,
you have to have that patience to kind of go, this place is just part is going to look a bit messy maybe for a
yeah,
while,
that's
and you'll
it.
benefit then.
And then you gotta let the other things grow. Then there might be dandelions flowering in it, but it's good for nature. It's good for the pollinators and the insects, biodiversity, to have that little bit of long grass, and then you can cut it back. Then, as I say, like in June, it's fine. But and there's a lot of bulbs. There's so many varieties each year. That I know you like your alliums, and you were saying you picked up a white allium. Is it this one, the Mount Everest?
No ping pongs I picked up.
All
Look,
right, yeah, that's a smaller flower than this one. Very nice one.
for
But
behind the water feature, yeah, I didn't want,
yeah,
big ones,
so
but
this is kind of a big one, like Purple Splendor and that. So I had a few of them in the border earlier this year, and I decided I liked them so much, I'm going to get a few more of those. So I'm going bit of Mount Everest, and this one I really like. Again, I tried a few of these, and I found them really, really good. This one's called Party Balloons.
never heard of
And
that one. No.
yeah, it's one I tried a few of them out, and they're really big flowers, sturdy stems, nice color. So I'm getting a few more of those. Like in the pack now, like they're 6.95 just for one bulb. It's a really big bulb. So I'll start building them up year by year, getting a few more in, and they should be nice then. So going a few alliums, and then I go always each year do some tulips, and there's some wild looking stuff out there in the tulips. So I decided I'd try to go for three really kind of wild looking things this year. And this one, Carnival de Nice, Nice as in the town or the
It's like
city rather in France. Look at that.
ripple ice cream. I'm getting
Yeah.
that vibes.
And it has then a double flower, which is really, really nice. And then I'm going for Green Mile. Well, that lad. Really unusual. yellow and green.
It's not a kind of I suppose a tulip you'd kind of be familiar with.
Yeah, so the different looking one. And then this one, Caribbean parrot.
That looks nice now. That
Yeah,
looks
the real double
a
one,
bit
all
of a
right.
showstopper in a garden.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a nice one. And yeah, so Caribbean parrot. So yeah, so I like to just each year try something a little bit different, add into ones which I like already, and I will get more than that as well probably because I will be doing a few more into the pots, and then just sometimes you're out in the garden and you're doing your planning, doing a bit of weeding now in the next few weeks, and you're working around the garden and think, just yeah, you know, maybe a few more alliums or a nice bunch of daffodils, a bit of snowdrops there underneath that shrub would look really nice. So over the next few weeks, be buying bits and pieces of bulbs, putting them in, and then sometimes you forget about them, and
Yeah,
then you're
they pop up,
surprised next spring. It's like, God, yeah, I forgot I had those, and they're nice surprises.
and they're a very cheap way of adding a bit of colour to your
Yeah,
garden.
and it's funny, like that allium I said, like the what was that, the party balloon, which although it's 6.95 for one bulb, but another way of looking at that, that's 6.95 for a plant. They're cheap
Yeah,
plants. It's not just for the one spring. They're gonna keep coming back.
yeah. And as you said, alliums are kind of they are a real showstopper of a flower in a garden.
Yeah, no,
And they become more popular, as I said. I think Chelsea was where I originally first kind of saw alliums and then fell in love with them. And last year I kind of experimented. They looked well, and someone said to me, "Oh, they'll be knocked down up on top of that apartment balcony." And I goes, "They're sturdy out.
yeah,
Like
that's it. You
the
know,
wind and all could be hitting them. They're not because people just think they're just flimsy and they fall over or they need to be staked. They're an absolute like I had them up on top of the balcony like and beside a river and these guys were just
yeah,
not moving.
I know, no, they're great plants. But yeah, so definitely take a trip to the garden centre, have a look at the
And
bulb
as you said,
section.
and make sure that you as you said you plant them at the right depth.
Yeah,
Um, Going forward. So then I suppose you wanted to touch on a bit about trees, because we're even getting
yeah,
closer to won't be long now actually, and we'll be kind of in the bare root season as well. Like so,
true,
you
yeah.
know, this is kind of we're kind of in the perfect time to be thinking about putting in trees into our garden.
Yeah, it's a great time of year for planting in general because during the autumn now, your soil is at its warmest. It's like when you visit the sea to go swim in the sea. It's in the autumn now that your soil's at its warmest. It's been heating up through the summer. And now, of course, in the autumn, you usually get more rain. So you have this great combination of warm soil, which is moist, and that's great planting conditions. So autumn planting means you get your plants in and you're going to get some root establishment even before the winter. So it's a great time of year for planting. And as we were mentioning earlier, it's a great time of year for looking at the garden, reassessing, reevaluating things. And okay, I needed something, a bit of structure in there, I need a tall plant there. Or often, a lot of people have been out in the garden enjoying it, and there's a building over there or a view they don't want, or they feel that they're overlooked by a neighbour and say, oh, we must plant something in there to give us a bit of privacy. So now in the autumn is a really good time of year to do that. And, it's I'd say the number one reason why people plant trees these days is to block out a view and particularly a window of a house behind them, or maybe somebody's built an extension and people come in looking for something with a bit of height that's going to block that view. Ideally, they want something evergreen and tallish at the minute, so they feel they don't need to wait. But at the same time, gardens are small and they don't have much space for planting maybe some of the traditional varieties of trees. So one tree which I'm recommending quite a bit is a type of tree called the Eucryphia and Eucryphia nymanzi, and specifically that variety because it's lime tolerant. A lot of Eucryphia need acidic soil. But Eucryphia are plants which grow with a broadly columnar habit, so they won't take up a huge amount of room. They can grow high enough to block out that view from a second floor story window from a neighbour, but they'll be evergreen and they flower August and September, white flowers, a little bit of perfume from them as well. Gorgeous plants. So yeah, I think Eucryphia Nymansi is a really, really good choice. And then also other plants which that kind of more kind of narrow compact habit. Do you know the plant called liquid amber? It's a tree, it has a maple like leaf, and
Yeah, I do.
they're yeah, it's lovely plants, and they can grow beautiful autumn colours. I love autumn colour. Lots of people do it. Some people
Yeah,
even say it's their favourite season. But the problem again with the liquid amber in the traditional varieties, they can go really, really big. But there's a couple of new varieties. There's one called, is it Fame 4 as in the number ever. And that's a new variety with a lovely shiny green leaf through the summer, very good autumn colour, and a more compact size than the traditional varieties, maybe up to 4 or 5 meters in height and only a couple of meters wide. That's worth looking out for now at the minute. And I'm a big fan of flowering dogwoods. And again, for smaller gardens, there's some great varieties. So there's one called, what's it called? Shiny Green, I think. And a few of these other varieties which are evergreen flowering dogwoods. So Cornus Cusa is a very commonly grown one which loses leaves, but this one has nice shiny green leaves all through the year, and the flowers of the flowering dogwood are about that sort of size. In fact, strictly speaking, they're not flowers, they're bracts, and you get these four big bracts around a little mass of flowers in the centre. They're absolutely stunning in May and June. But this one, I say, like, has the evergreen foliage, and the new growth is lovely copper coloured. I have a couple of those in the garden, and they're really, really nice plants and narrow growing ones. That's definitely things to look out for with those the flowering cornus. And we've actually another one for it'd be a little bit bigger. It's called Cornus capitata. So again, an evergreen dogwood. Kilmacurra is the variety, Kilmacurra red. It's beautiful pink flowers, absolutely stunning. So there's lots of new varieties out there in the tree world as well, which are more suitable maybe for smaller gardens. But of course,
yeah,
there's lots of stuff. If you have the space, why not plant birch trees,
yeah.
rowan trees, the Sorbus acciparia, beautiful plants. Trees are special and they have a lovely presence to the garden too.
Yeah, and they're great with nature, and it's
Exactly.
nice to have a kind of a selection, ones that are evergreen and ones that are not evergreen, and
Yeah,
you kind of get that whole autumn color, that change when you look out and you see the leaves kind of going brown, and
yeah,
I know, it has its, I suppose, some people like, oh yeah, but sure, look, I'll be picking up leaves every day, and you know what I mean. So
yeah,
has its pluses and has its
yeah.
negatives.
Well, I suppose people also got to remember evergreen trees shed leaves. And so if you have a 20-year evergreen tree, it doesn't have the same leaves for 20 years.
Yeah,
So many evergreens are constantly shedding their leaves. So the deciduous trees drop them all at once over a
yes,
course of a few weeks, you rake them up. But if you think like even like laurels and stuff, they're constantly dropping their leaves. So you're picking them up maybe all year round. So they got to weigh up those sort of
yeah.
pros and
Whereas the
cons.
other way is one, like they're all like, you're kind of, once they're gone, they're gone. They're finished. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? But it's nice to see the change in color.
it is. But the seasonality is really important. And, if everything is just green through the year, I think it can be a little bit boring. And when people see a bit of autumn colour and the turning of the foliage, it really warms up those autumn days when people say, "Oh yeah, that's really, really beautiful." And then at the opposite other end of the season, when they come back into leaf, it's a beautiful thing as well, seeing the new
You
growth
know,
come
you're
onto
kind
it.
of Yeah, you're kind of moving into the brighter evenings.
Yeah,
Just
and it's
like
important.
it's like a clock, a seasonal clock
It is,
in
yeah.
one
It's
way.
it's a reminder, and it's a very good thing, to have that connection with nature. Because like you're sitting inside or watching TV, and okay, we might notice the change in the evenings when it comes, but to have that sort of connection with nature, with seeing the new growth, the autumn, fall blossoms and stuff, it's really important. And trees really embody that, I think.
Yeah, there's not enough. There's not enough trees. I think
Yeah,
every garden. As you even said, smaller gardens. There's trees out there that will suit every garden. So
yeah,
I think every
absolutely.
garden should kind of have a couple of trees
Yeah.
um, in there
Yeah,
to give
apart from the
structure.
design considerations, they're great for nature as well, as you were saying. And also they're good at sequestering carbon, so good for the environment in that point of view as well, that they take in more carbon than they let out. So yeah, there's every reason to be growing trees.
Yeah, and then I suppose um, two other topics that you wanted to bring up was what's looking good. Um, you always really pull up something that's looking good
Oh, in
that
the
I
garden
haven't
now.
seen or
Uh,
heard of before. Um,
Okay, what have we got this? We start. This is a small shrub, and I'll send you a picture of this later in the garden. Um, what we're looking at there doesn't really do it justice. It's a little shrub called Polygala, and it's a new hybrid one. It makes a little round dome of about 40 to 60 centimeters in height. Evergreen foliage. Now, Polygalas are really long flowering shrubs. But up to this, the problem is hardiness. Polygala myrtifolia, one of the parents of this hybrid. It's a beautiful shrub, but it's not hardy. So this is a new hybrid one, which is said to be hardy to about minus 12 or minus 14. Evergreen foliage, long flowering season. And so far in the garden, I've been really impressed by the amount of flower on it, tidy little compact habit. And this one is called Polygala BB Pink, BIBI. BB Pink. And I think it's a one to look out for in the future. It's the first year was available so far. The another thing which I've had in the garden in the last couple of years, this is something really unusual for its foliage. Now, see the way the leaves are all kind of hanging down
like they're kind
like
of
that?
wilting.
That's it's in its sleep mode. And then during the day, the leaves, when it brightens up, the leaves flatten out like that. So it's really kind of cool. And then they're very nice shaped leaves. They kind of got this indentation at the base of it, sort of a bluish green colour. And then at the base of the leaf stalks, you have these. Can you see in there this purple structure here,
Yeah,
which is called a stipule? So it's a little structure which is attached to the base of some of the leaves, and it's actually quite an attractive colour. Now it's a member of the pea family. It might produce still yet little yellow pea flowers. And this one I planted last year, and I thought I had lost it, it had died away, but it has grown up to about 4 or 5 feet high this summer. So it's a plant called Amicia zygomerus, to give it its full name. Amicia zygomerus, really unusual foliage plant, nice bit of character to it. So I've been really happy with that, and it's come into its own now at this time of year. And then chrysanthemum seed, we had those ones there. This is one which I got last year, and it's come on brilliantly. It's grown up to about 2.5 feet or so, and same in spread. Masses of these orange flowers, loads and loads of flowers. And that started flowering probably a few weeks ago, and that'll keep on going right through the whole kind of autumn period. I'd like to
really
see
Halloween color.
yeah, up to Halloween, and even longer if we don't get frosts. But also
Okay.
like again, like I've cut the stem of that, so you can use even cut some stems off that and bring them into the house. Chrysanthemums are really good cut flowers that last a really long time, so the good uses for that. So that one is called Dixter Orange, and it's not available in garden centres at the minute, but maybe one day we will have it. but you might pick it up here and there around. So chrysanthemum Dixter orange. I'm very happy with that one. And looking at some of the hydrangeas which have grown well around the garden, but this one is definitely my favourite. Look at the
That's a
size of that flower,
fine flower.
isn't it? So these ones we sell often in early in summer in the garden centre, and there'll be a plant. And actually, the individual flower, even when we sell them, is just one stalk and one flower, and sometimes the flower will be even bigger than that. And so I tried them out in the garden. So this is the second summer I've had them in the pots, maybe the third summer. This year it's absolutely stunning. It's a really compact hydrangea. The whole plant is only about maybe 2 feet in height, but it produces loads of these stems and really big flowers. This is it sort of in midway through its flowering. So it comes out almost like a greenish cream colour first when it's in bud, and then these flowers darken, and when it gets colder in the autumn, they go almost red. So you get all mixtures of colours, and it's a repeat flowering one. So even still, it's producing new shoots on its new growth. So you get the mixture of the colours at this time of year between the darker and the lighter flowers. Absolutely stunning, isn't it?
It's an absolute stunning
Yeah.
pinky
So
kind of
that one
white.
now, lovely pink, is a little bit more white with the colour there. It'll shade it a bit. So it is nice kind of pink there. And but if you grow that in the ericaceous compost, it would turn more blue. It'd be a light blue. So like the way hydrangeas can change the colour. So this one is called Fusion, hydrangea Fusion. I think it's just a super plant. Really is really
Stunning
really nice.
looking. You know, the color is just stunning.
His colour's done and size of the flower, and it's a sturdy plant as well. Like it's really good. That's one of the best ones around, I find, for growing in a container. I think that really is a super plant. And was there one other I was going to mention? I'm not sure if there is. I think that's all I have there from the garden this week. And I could have done 50, but well,
um, yeah, and then I suppose you only wanted to touch on. You mentioned their box tree.
oh yeah, the box tree caterpillar. So books of sempervirens, people use it as a low hedge in these topiary shapes, cone shapes, and ball shapes. And it's a great plant. Now there's a bit of two problems with them. They've been getting box blight the last number of years, and you can get a
That's yeah,
product for that where you get the browning in the leaves and the dropping their leaves. It's a bit of a nuisance, but probably even more troublesome is this caterpillar, which probably wasn't in the country up till kind of 4 or 5 years ago. And you started hearing people saying, I've got the box tree caterpillar. And this year, in early summer, a number of people have come into the garden centre with it. And it's a tiny little green and yellow caterpillar, which it blends in with the foliage, so it really goes unnoticed. And the real horror of it is that when they hatch out from their eggs and start feeding on that plant, they will strip the foliage in about 48 hours. They're really, really damaging. So need to watch out for it. So there is a product you can get for treating it. This is the one called Zentari. So if you have box topiary or box hedges, look out for the first signs of damage. And they can often be just like they look like little spider webs. So it's like leaves sort of clustered together with webbing. And that's the first sign that the caterpillars are just about to get munching on it. So if you spray it with this, little kind of sachets in it, which dissolve in water, it's a biological control, so it's a non-chemical control, but it is very, very effective. So it's a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis, and you spray this bacteria over the foliage of the box plants, and if there's caterpillars there and they can bite and consume a bit of leaf off your box plant, they will die. So it won't harm any other insects. So quite environmentally friendly in that regard. So you're spraying this naturally occurring bacteria, which will only harm caterpillars if they eat the box plant. And so watch out for the damage, spray it, or even if you hear about it in the locality, probably no harm to give a spray, just to be careful. And that's one way of treating it. So I would really, if people come and look are investing in like a topiary plant for pots by the house, or looking at planting a lot of box hedging, it's edging around borders and stuff, I would be strongly suggesting alternative varieties of plants rather than using Buxus sempervirens. And so one which we've used in Johnstown Garden Centre, the gardens which we did, was one called the Euonymus Green Spire, and it's a really narrow growing green euonymus, so ideal like for low hedges. And then there's varieties of Ilex crenata, Japanese holly, and Taxus baccata, the Irish yew or common yew, which can be used for topiary and low hedges as well. So definitely worth considering the alternatives. But having said that, there are also some varieties of Buxus sempervirens on the market now, which one called Renaissance, and which have, if you like, some resistance to the box blight, but they don't have any resistance to caterpillars eating them. So definitely, if you're thinking of going down the topiary route, low hedges and things like that, I would strongly consider alternatives to Buxus sempervirens.
Yeah, a garden that I look after, that I designed, in the front of the house we have Buxus with ponytails. And you just mentioned there, and I was down there I think this week as well, but I haven't seen. I've been lucky enough, there's never been any, box blight on them.
No issues,
but I haven't seen any kind of, the caterpillars. But you've now opened my eyes to kind of, to be watching out.
If you see certain little clusters of like spider webbing on it, get a spray onto them as soon as you can.
Yeah. So that's, I think, really all you really wanted to do.
We covered a good bit.
Talk about. We've got a lot in, and it was great to catch up for a bit of a chat, and give, I suppose, my listeners and viewers a little bit more insight. I think it does help with the videos, because people can kind of see some of the plants that you're kind of mentioning, so that's a great thing. So that's about it, Ciaran.
Fantastic.
For jumping on, having a bit of a chat.
Been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, and look, we will fit one or two kind of probably more in before we finish up season 3. I'm sure you might have one or two more things to start off, and I think off here we discuss something that we might have a bit of a conversation, and that is people that are tuning in can see Ciaran's stunning houseplants behind them. So look, it is something, I suppose, we could, have a bit of a discussion about, because a lot more people out there do have houseplants, and they're not the easiest to kind of care for. They're not as simple as people think they are. And there's a lot of money goes into them.
Yeah, but if you know some of the basics, and we'll talk about that in the future, a few basics, then, it's, once you know those few things, success is much easier.
Yeah, so look, thanks again, Ciaran, for jumping on, and
no problem.
We'll catch up again towards the end or start of next month.
Great stuff. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the Premier Garden Show, and we will see you in the next episode. Be sure to like, share and subscribe, and join all our social media.
Do, 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 do. do 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 do.